something different. Vote Bonte. Matthew.
There's an echo in here. Well, I'll start where I began. My name is Matt Alexander. I'm running for City Council here in Ward 1, and I'd like to ask you, do you think City Job's been a good city lately? No. Do you think City Hall's been doing a good job lately? I want your vote, and I think you should vote for me, because I understand how cities work. We have business people, people who've worked on not-for-profit corporations, different community groups, and that's great. I've spent 4 years studying how cities operate as a planner from the aspect of municipal finance, public-private partnerships. That's what I've been into as a hobby for the last 10 years, and I turned that into a career by going to planning school, and now I'm working in public service, and I'd like to serve you as your counselor. I've worked in small community centers as a project evaluator. I helped evaluate the green plan for a small community center in downtown Toronto. I also worked with one of the most popular and effective counselors in Toronto, Adam Vaughan, and I've seen how his office was structured and the strategies that they use to engage residents. Things like, their ward experienced the most growth of any of the wards in the last 8 years, with a very minimal amount of appeals and rejection from the city because of that outward engagement of the public and getting those great ideas and putting those into those projects. So that's the kind of thing that I'd like to bring to City Council and open things up. And I'll end with, I walk here. I live around the corner. I walk, I ride a bike, and I see what goes on at the street level, not 40 kilometers, 50, 60 kilometers per hour. I know what's going on. I know the neighbors. I've seen how businesses are struggling and the new businesses that are coming in, and it's very exciting. So I'd like to be a part of that, and I hope that you can put your trust in your vote with me. Thanks.
Tom.
I strongly believe that I have solid, proven leadership qualities that would best serve the constituents of Ward 1. I've been an involved member of my community for most of my adult life, and I am passionate about serving and giving a voice to citizens that need to be heard. My passion can be seen through my various involvements in volunteer positions over the past 35 years. I will continue as a proud citizen of the City of Greater Sudbury to serve to the very best of my ability. So I ask you to vote for me on October 27th. Thank you.
Mark.
My name is Mark Signoretti. On October 27th, I urge you to vote for me. What I can do is, my experience is endless. I have run my own business, coached my son's hockey team. I sit on the Nickel District Conservation Board. I sit on the library board. I'm the vice chair of the Nickel District Conservation Board. I'm the chair of Friends of Lake Laurentian. So I think my resume speaks for itself. I'm passionate. I'm a lifelong citizen and resident of Ward 1. I'm not going anywhere. I have a young family, and I have cousins, relatives that live in the ward. So I'm going to be accountable to them as well as to you. Thank you.
Chris.
First of all, I will speak for the people that I'm going to represent, and I think that's important. I know it's important after knocking on 2,000 plus doors so far. Many people have told me, wow, this is the first time someone has come to my door in a decade. Yeah, go ahead, put out a sign. I like what you're saying. So I'm going to be speaking for the residents and owners of those 2,000 plus homes. Their concerns are my concerns. That is why I believe I would be a very good representative for the ward. Listen, the reality is, I believe in accountability, transparency, and integrity. I think that's what people in Ward 1 want. That's what I'm prepared to offer them. The bond, the trust between the two of us. And that will be on an ongoing basis, not just at election time. This is a very serious juncture at our point in our city's history, and I want to move forward. I'm not as interested, like some of my fellow candidates have said this evening. They seem focused dwelling in the past. I want to learn from the past, but I want to move and talk about the future. That's what everybody in my ward has been saying. They want to talk about a productive, lasting future. They want to grow and see a prosperous future for Ward 1. Together we will grow the potential of the city of Greater Sudbury, and that's why I believe I speak for the people of Ward 1. And that's why I will make an excellent councillor. Thank you.
Dennis.
I see we're going to have a difficult choice. We have great representation this year, and it's a sign of how the people feel in our ward and the whole city, I think, in all the wards. But I say, why like me? Why not me? I love people. I love dealing with people. I deal with people on a day-to-day basis. I travel the city on a day-to-day basis, and a lot of times I get complaints from citizens regarding some of the stuff that goes on in the schools. I address your situation the best I can. I have an open ear. I'm on call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week already. And I'm there for you, and good luck on election day, definitely Sunday. Thank you.
Paul, you have the last say, I suppose.
I bring a great deal of business experience to the table, so I guess I'm not getting Matthew's vote. My business experience has taught me to respond to an always changing environment. I've learned over the years to be flexible, take action when required, and always keep an open mind. As your councillor, I'll meet the needs of my constituents. My business life has taught me to meet those needs. I will bring to the role of councillor the job experience that will allow me to listen to my constituents' needs and find a solution that answers these questions as quickly as possible. My vast community involvement has prepared me to work in an environment that presents itself at City Council. My ability to work as a team player has been recognized among those people that I've worked with on the various boards and committees. This is the kind of new leadership that we need at City Hall. I've got the desire, I've got the experience, I've got the ability, and I've got the time to represent the people of Ward 1 the way they should be represented.
Thank you very much, Paul. So I'll ask the question. Probably not going to get a response. Are there any additions or challenges or clarifications that are necessary? Okay. Well, this ends the stage where there were advanced debate questions, and now we have a series of questions that have been submitted in writing by you as concerned citizens. One of the questions that has been asked is it's directed to all of you, and perhaps I'll start at number 1 and just ask you to respond if you wouldn't mind. The question is, I would like to know if each councillor candidate lives in Ward 1. So I'm going to start with you, Mark. Would you answer that question? No, you can, maybe,
Yes.
Maybe we'll try it this way.
To answer that question, I've lived in the ward 43 years, all my life, and I currently live in the ward, and I don't plan to go anywhere. Thank you.
So, let's not get the mic too close. So Chris, would you answer that question?
Yes, I've lived here in Ward 1 my whole life. I grew up on Buchanan Street, just around the corner, and now I live on Southview.
I live on the border of Ward 1, but we're currently renovating our home, and I used to live in Ward 1 a while back, and we want to go back to Ward 1. Thank you.
I live in the adjacent ward to Ward 1. I was born and brought up in Ward 1. My family has had their businesses in Ward 1 over the last 40 years. I have an excellent working knowledge of Ward 1, and I can represent Ward 1 as well as anyone else.
I was born in Sudbury, and I live on Crater Crescent. I have my entire life, and that is actually down the street from Mark Signoretti. So yes, I do live in the ward.
Yes, I live in Ward 1. I live at Alvinson and Douglas. I purchased my home with my fiance in February, and we chose the West End. We chose Ward 1 because it's a great older neighborhood, an established community, and it's just got so much to offer. And it's a quick walk over to Delphi Dozy and the track there. It's fantastic.
Yes, I live in Ward 1. I live on Irish Street.
Thank you, Tom. The second question posed from the floor is, what is your position on the street parking along Elm Street? Is there any of you who would care to answer that question? Dennis?
I don't like the fact of coming down Elm Street during the day and people coming to a stop, like especially visitors coming down the Trans-Canada Highway, which is part of the Trans-Canada Highway, and having parking right on Elm Street. I think it's absolutely ridiculous. And there's going to be an accident, and maybe not yet, but eventually something's going to happen there, and somebody's going to problem something, because a lot of people still don't realize that there is parking on Elm Street.
I don't think we should have. Sorry, I don't think we should have parking on Elm Street. I think what we need is a better facility downtown for parking, like a parking garage. So there is more parking for people that want to shop downtown, that work downtown, to be able to come downtown. Having a parking on Elm Street, I think, is very dangerous for pedestrians as well as people driving by.
Thank you. I think parking on Elm Street is absolutely crazy. It's a major artery. There should not be parking. I don't know why they've opened up, 20 spots, which absolutely does no good as far as I'm concerned, other than hamper traffic that's trying to move during rush hour.
I don't really have a problem with the parking on Elm Street. It's a downtown street, so to have the expectation that you're going to be traveling at 80 kilometers per hour through the middle of the largest city in Northern Ontario is kind of unrealistic to me. We have a bypass. If you'd like to get right through the city as quickly as possible, please take the bypass. If you'd like to shop in our businesses downtown, there is parking available there. I like the idea of a good parking structure with some retail and perhaps apartments or condos included in that, something creative and functional. But I really don't have an issue with the parking on Elm Street.
All right, well, I would agree with most of the candidates here, and I think it's silly to have the parking downtown on Elm Street. And it's not just an issue of the fact that it's downtown or that there's a shortage of parking, it's a safety issue. If someone's crossing the street and they're not using a designated crossing area, they're going to run out into traffic, and traffic's not going to see them because of the parked cars there. That's a safety issue. That's going to cost the city money, and it's going to cause a lot of heartache and hardship. Now, it is the downtown, but the way the downtown is shaped is that's the main crossroad between the different areas of town. If you want to go from the Kingsway to Chelmsford or Zilda, you have to go through there. Either that or take the LaSalle extension, but if you got to go all the way up through Notre Dame to go there, it's way out of your way. And so having traffic there just to simply try and force fewer people to drive through there or more people to use the bus, it doesn't make sense. I understand the motive there, but at the same time, you shouldn't have to strong arm people into taking the mode of transportation that they prefer. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Matthew. Is there anyone else? A general question again, not directed to any particular candidate, is what is your opinion about the money that was wasted on the calming of Southview? And how can we prevent this type of thing happening in the future? Sort of answers the question. Is there someone who cares to respond? Chris, first.
Well, I live on Sudbury Drive, and it's anything but calm. You know, we have thousands of vehicles coming there non-stop. It's, I'll give it to Joe and the planning. They tried something new. It didn't work. It didn't work. It wasn't right. It wasn't a right fit for the street. Now they've installed speed bumps, and I think they're very funny because people go over them doing 20, hammer it, go over them, brake quickly, go over it again, and as soon as they're gone, they're flying down Southview again. I think the best, there's two options that I would think would be the best way to calm that street, and one's a little bit more expensive than the other, but the more expensive one would be parking a police officer there. I bet no one in this room speeds down Walford Street, right? Because you know there's a good chance that you'll get a ticket if you do. And it's a school zone, so you shouldn't be speeding in school zones. But the second option would be doing a couple three-way stops on Southview. I think those would be the best solution. You know, we can still have a safe street, and it would be good. So that is my answer.
I think what we need to do is we need to listen to the residents of that area. I think there was a petition brought forth, and their concerns were, they were asked what they wanted. If that wasn't done, I think when being elected, I will bring a petition forward to see what the residents of that area would like, because I think ultimately we have to look out for the safety of the residents of that ward. I know that trucks right now are being policed, that they're not supposed to go on that road, so that needs to continue to happen. And once I notice that that sign is not up, but I'll make sure that if I see a truck on that road, or if the residents call me and say there is a truck on that road, that they'll be fined for being on that road, because there is a law in place right now that trucks are not allowed to be on that road. The traffic is heavy there, and the reason why the traffic is heavy there is because it opened up by the bypass. In addition, Corsi Hill was opened up, so there is a lot more traffic going through. Yes, it's nice to say that you can have police there 24/7. Is it realistic? I don't think so. I think what needs to happen is we need to hear from the residents. I know a lot of people would love to have a police stay there 24/7, but there's only so many police in our community that can be there and patrol that. I think you have a police presence is important, but I think there's other measures that can be taken place. I like the fact that the stop signs that are on Marcel and Bouchard, because it does slow down traffic, but having stop signs at each location will just congest the traffic flow, and residents of that ward won't be able to get out of their driveway, and I think we owe to them to listen to their concerns.
Stop signs at Bouchard and Marcel are going to be closed. They're non-existent now, that's what.
That's right, so the stop signs at Marcel,
Answer by everybody with the common petition.
good point. So it's just mentioned in the front here that the stop signs at Marcel and Bouchard are being removed. And the justification for that is that there's a concern that it will increase rear-end collisions, which, to my knowledge, is already illegal. You're not allowed to ram into people by accident. So this goes back to the idea of setting what are the outcomes that residents want. At that intersection, people want to be able to walk across the street and go to Gloria's. Stop signs allow that to happen. They want to be able to turn left. Stop signs allow that to happen. So removing the stop signs are not going to accomplish those objectives. And the thing about engineers, they're great, love engineers. The thing about engineers is they're really good at finding the solution that's going to meet those performance measures that you give them. So if you establish those performance measures, I want to be able to cross the street with my kid. I want to be able to turn left and get over to Regent without having to gun it in between that tiny gap. They'll find a way of doing that, and we can work on that together as a community. Now, as far as trucks on Southview, you can chase after them, or you can make it actually physically impossible for them to go down the road. Trucks are quite large, so if you can build a gate, basically a beam that would prevent very large trucks from going through without preventing fire trucks or ambulances from going through, that's going to be a much better incentive or disincentive for trying to get down there. And that can be something that's attractive. The other element would be simply visual interventions that make it feel like you're going faster than you actually are. That gets drivers to slow down because they don't feel safe. Even though they actually have physically enough space to maneuver, things like road markings, street trees, that kind of thing, actually gets people to slow down. And that's an effective thing that's been used in cities all over the place.
I would love to see what those speed bumps are gonna look like after the first snowfall. After the plows tear them up.
They're just temporary, they're gonna be removed before the snow comes.
Oh, they are. Then what do we go to? Back to the same thing that we had.
So there's gonna be a vote taken with the residents, right, to Bouchard, and it's up to the residents to decide whether they want the speed bumps back in permanently with asphalt, or just to leave it to traffic, or whatever it is.
Well, the police were very effective on Walford Road. And I think that they would be very effective on Southview Drive. They don't need to be there 24 hours a day, just when the traffic is the busiest. And I think that that could solve a lot of the problems.
Now, I used to attend Lockerbie Composite School, and I walked Walford Road. I got a first-hand view of the police chase they had down there about 7 or 8 years ago, and I can tell you that even though they do have a police presence, traffic typically goes through there at least 10 to 20 kilometers higher than the posted speed limit. So, I mean, just having a police officer there isn't necessarily going to solve it, and you won't be able to stay there the whole time. Now, everybody's talking about traffic calming measures, but nobody's asking why there is so much traffic in the first place. And the reason is, not only does it connect to Kelly Lake Road and bypass and the end of Warren, but there's not another left-hand turn until that you can reach from the south end until the Weston Bakery. You can't, and there are no left-hand turns without going through downtown that don't involve going through residential areas. If we force people off of Southview, they're going to end up on Martindale, and then the same complaints are going to happen there, and the same kind of people are going to be dealing with the same issues, and we're going to waste a bunch of money trying to calm the traffic there as well. The more expensive option is to have either a main road that can go to that end of Warren, or a left-hand turn through Killer's Crossing. The easier way of doing it is simply trying to prevent traffic from getting to Kelly Lake in the first place, and that will take people off, but that will calm down the traffic. Now, as for the four-way stop, thank you. It's about time we have it. I used to bike by there all the time. I used to walk by there all the time. It was a risk, and even if you're coming in from, I think it's Yale, and then you even if you want to turn right, the bridge is right there, and then there's that blind turn. People come flying through there, and you can't even see them. And so that, I mean, never mind being rear-ended, being T-boned, or being hit as you're walking or biking, it is a danger. And so those should stay there, but we shouldn't waste our money trying somewhat effective, but mostly ineffective calming measures when the real problem is the fact that that's the main route that most people use to get through.
Is there any candidate who has not responded to this question? Dennis?
Yeah, I don't understand why there's such road rage and stuff on our roads and speed, but it's not just Sudbury Drive, there's many roads where people just come flying down there. And maybe it's time to bring back photo radar. Some of areas.
That was my comment. I got photo radar so that it may cost money at the beginning, but it would pay off, the revenue coming from it would pay for it